that's what I was writing about.
Of course.
And eventually, it was suggested to me, well, you've been working in Estonia for some time. People know who you are. Why don't you stand for election?
Okay.
And at the time, my son had just been born,
Yeah.
right? And my son's name's Marcus.
Aww.
Yeah, and there wasn't enough kindergarten places in Estonia, so I figured, well, this is something that is actually an issue that I care about.
Yeah.
There aren't enough kindergarten places. I need to try and fix that.
Yeah.
So I stood and I got elected, and that's how I got involved.
That's amazing. What were you doing in Estonia in the first place?
My wife's Estonian.
Gotcha.
And I went there to be the editor of the English language newspaper.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you've gone from Estonia to moving back to the UK.
Yeah.
What was the thought process behind that?
I've been in Estonia for 10 years. It's a long time, and I was kind of missing home.
Yeah.
My mother's not in the best of health, and she needs.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Needs me around now. And also the political situation in Estonia turned kind of ugly, right?
Yes.
Because there's a far right party there called the Estonian Conservative Party. They call it. It's not a conservative party, and they went into coalition with the government party.
Yeah, I saw a letter you wrote
really
to them.
Strongly against this.
Yeah.
This was just outrageous, right? And especially since the Prime Minister had promised the entire country that he would never go into coalition with this far right party.
Yeah.
And me personally, he'd promised he'd never do that, right? And then he goes and does it because he wants to stay in power. And so I wrote this really strongly worded letter, and at that point it was clear that I had to leave the country, right? Because so I'm kind of like a political exile in a way. Yeah.
So now, a lot of us aren't in that world, and a lot of us have watched programs like Scandal that make things seem quite scary in a political world, especially when you go against the grain or go against who is in power. Would you say it was as serious as potentially life-threatening with regards to the situation in Estonia for you?
I wouldn't say it was life-threatening,
Okay.
right? But it was an ugly situation, right? Yeah,
Okay.
I wouldn't say it was life-threatening, but
Okay.
it was an ugly situation.
Okay. So you returned to home.
Yeah.
You returned back here.
Not that I've got anything against. I still love Estonia, And,
Okay.
it's just it's really the fault of one man, the Prime Minister, right? Yeah.
Fair enough.
It boils down to him, really.
Fair enough. So you returned to the UK.
Yep.
And you've clearly seen the mess that we are in over here.
Yeah, well, this Brexit thing has been going for 3.5 years. And I was a very strong Remainer for many, many years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Well, because I thought, it makes sense to have the European countries working together, freedom of movement of people from different parts of Europe. But when I got into politics, one thing that every politician has to do when you get into politics, you end up going to Brussels at some point, and you see how things actually work there. And the more you see of it, the more you don't like it. Right?
What were you seeing there that you weren't liking?
Well, a lot of people are milling around, making lots of money and doing no work. It's just this bureaucratic mess, which is pretty horrible. Right? And then you can see that it's an undemocratic institution. That's my main concern.
In what way?
Because it's not run by anybody who's elected. It's run by European commissioners who are appointed.
Yeah.
And they're making decisions for all of us.
Yeah.
And one thing that outraged me in particular was the TTIP, Transatlantic Trade Investment Protocol.
Okay.
What that meant is that if US firms wanted to sell their goods into Europe, and there was something dodgy in that product. Right? If the US authorities have already decided that this product is okay, European countries would be forced to accept them. Right?
Really?
Right, yeah. This is something that was being negotiated between Europe and or the EU and US authorities.
Yeah.
It's dead now because of Trump, but it's still there on the back burner. They want to bring it back. Right? And so when Jeremy Corbyn, for example, talks about chloridated chicken, that is actually gaslighting, right? I don't know if you know that term.
Yes,
gaslighting,
I do.
right? That's exactly what the European Union means. It means that we'll be forced to accept products that we don't want.
Mm-hmm. So was that your main reason for joining the Brexit Party? Obviously, the Brexit Party is a very new party. It came to head in January, April?
Well, I want to see a Commonwealth Brexit. That's my priority. The current system we have means that people from European countries, Eastern European countries, get priority in coming into the country, right? Whereas people from countries with which Britain has historical ties,
Canada's, Australia's, New Zealand's, etc.
and also Nigeria, Ghana, Jamaica,
okay.
India. All these countries that we have had historical ties.
Yes.
Right? They get second place. Right?
Okay.
They're behind. Right. And I don't think that is fair. It's discriminatory.
It definitely is. However, I do have questions about the Brexit Party with regards to leadership. Nigel Firage, who has widely been accused of point-blank racism.
Those accusations are unfair. I mean, I know Nigel Firage. He's the nicest guy you'd ever meet. He's not a racist. He's never said anything that's racist. No one has ever said. No one can show me anything he's ever said that's racist.
But how about some of his politics his policies on immigration?
Well, he wants a fair immigration system, right? And this is something that all parties have done in the past, right? And he wants a fair immigration system. And if you look at the Brexit contract, which I hope people will read, without regard to ethnicity, right? So, a points-based system which doesn't favour one group over the other, right? I don't think that mass immigration is a good idea because, as we've seen, it creates a situation where there are lots of competition for housing and jobs and. Housing prices have gone through the roof. It was not planned when we joined when the 8 succeeding countries joined the European Union in 2004. The Home Office said that 50,000 people would arrive. 500,000 showed up in the first year. Right?
Yes. But those 500,000 have contributed. I'm not saying that every single one of them have. However, when you mention things to do with competition with jobs, there are a lot of jobs that are being done by, people from quote unquote Eastern Europe, which people who are born and raised here would not want to do. And that's the truth.
Yeah, but there are lots of jobs that they're not doing either, right? I mean, for example, Nigel Firage, and you don't hear about this in the news, right? He specifically went to the Bangladeshi community because they're having problem finding workers to work in restaurants, right? Because the younger members of the Bangladeshi community, they don't want to do what their parents did. They want to be doctors or lawyers, or engineers, whatever. And so they're having problems with the restaurant trade, which is a profitable trade, and they need people from the Indian subcontinent to come here to do that. So Nigel Firage said, well, if we have Brexit, we can have visas for people from that part of the world to come to Britain. And then Bangladeshi community then voted to leave. Right? Now, as it turned out, it hasn't happened yet, right? Because we haven't had Brexit. Yeah. But they were behind it, right? And you never hear about that in the news. He specifically targeted the Bangladeshi community, and your parents, I assume, and my parents certainly. We came from the Commonwealth. We didn't come here from Europe, and people from the Commonwealth are at the back of the queue at the moment. Right? If we leave the European Union, we're free to make our own relationships with the world, which includes having a closer relationship with the Commonwealth, which would make it easier for people from Commonwealth countries to come here.
Absolutely, and I think that would be an amazing thing. One thing I do find interesting, though, you guys didn't release a bog standard manifesto. You've done a contract to the people, and I don't think your contract actually has that much detail with regards to. But it's about 21 pages.
It's 21 pages, but there's a lot. There's sometimes less is more, right? It covers every section of the economy, including things like the environment, the infrastructure, housing, tax, the education system, the NHS. It covers everything. There's no point in writing, pages and pages and pages, and it's understandable. Anyone can read it very quickly and understand. Sometimes less is more. Just because it's not a long document doesn't mean that it's not detailed. Right?
I agree. Sometimes less is definitely more. I just feel in the times that we're in, some people do want to be able to see in black and white exactly what the plans are for the country. We're gonna take a short break, but I'm gonna go into a bit more detail with regards to the party, and I want you to convince me why I should vote for the Brexit Party. Here we go.